It's an interesting topic, the idea of women returning to the workforce, and we are joined by two very experienced professionals from the British Chamber of Commerce. We've got the CEO, Katy Holmes, and also the Communications and Growth Manager, Giulia Cibotti, joining us here in the studio. To the two of you, thank you very much for coming in to Talk 100.3 this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
When it comes down to women who want to have a career break, your career, there is sometimes an element of guilt. Obviously, family is first, but then comes the thought of, when I want to re-enter the corporate world, how is it going to look for potential employers having that break on the CV? Why should employers, do you think, have schemes and have different policies to make it easier for women to come back into work after they've had a career break?
Yeah, so Dubai is so unique in the sense that majority of us are expats. So my story was pretty typical. I moved over here with my husband's career, leaving my own career, but also in between having my first daughter and my second daughter. So I moved here and my primary focus was establishing a network and setting up a home, basically, and supporting my husband's career and raising my children, which was still one of the best things I ever managed to do, have that time. But obviously, I've got a huge amount of experience and before I became a mother, and there was this itch to go back into the workplace, but it was impossible to find something. I actually ended up in the charity sector working for nothing because I was just so desperate to do something once they were back in school. So 100%, there's a huge pool of talent of women, expats that are here, trailing talent rather than trailing spouse.
Sounds like there's a business opportunity for an entrepreneur to work with this. So how about your experiences, Giulia? How did you find it coming back into the corporate world after a career break?
Similar to Katy in the sense that I'm also an expat mum of two. My kids are younger. They're both under 4. But similar in the sense that I get what she means when she says hitch to get back to work. Because as a person that used to be quite career driven before having children, I could not wait to get back to work. And I think employers have a huge opportunity to tap into women and mums getting back into work.
But from the mums I speak to, they often say, they thought that work was a bit of a challenge before they had kids, and after they have kids, almost sometimes going back to work for their mental health, getting back towards adult conversations again, and getting away it's almost a holiday to some degrees of getting away from just the exhaustion of being a young mum.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my experience when I was back in the UK was I was in an NCT group, so that's all mothers coming together, having babies at the same time. And the majority of women chose to go back to work earlier than they'd hoped for, saying it's not the easy option to stay at home.
Yeah, and we look at the world, people that used to work from home prior to COVID, there was a bit of, are they really doing any work? Now it's very legitimate. Employers are almost saying, no, we want you back in the office. They're trying to get people back in, particularly in cities that have, a corporate and a CBD, they want to flourish again. But the idea of legitimising work from home, has that helped new mums who might want to work or job share to try and get back into the workforce?
Definitely. Well, Giulia's a great example of a hybrid worker living in Iraq, having a job in Dubai. Yeah. So maybe you want to share a little bit about your typical week?
Yeah, my typical week is Monday in the Dubai office with the rest of the team. That's when everyone is there. And then I do the other days in the week either working from a co-working space in RAC or from home. And obviously we've got a lot of events, over 70 events a year at the British Chamber of Commerce, so the team is involved in all of them and we try to take turns, but normally it's up to 4 days that I can work in RAC, which is great, and it's not very typical, so I've been very lucky to find them.
That's obviously going to work very well, having that hybrid format. But for you, Katy, as a CEO, and putting your boss hat on, let's go to the other side of the fence. Many bosses often talk about, I like the idea of working from home, but if it's a new employee, I haven't had the opportunity to learn to trust them and see how they work. They can't just come in and make all these big demands. Yeah. As a CEO, how do you find it trying to take on a new employee that you haven't formed a bond yet with, yet you've got to have the license to let them work remotely?
Trust is really, really key. And that's the same for somebody working 9 to 5. You have to have that trust. And the trust is within. So it's all down to your hiring. If you haven't hired somebody that you can trust, then that's the issue and it's on you, really. So it's quite an interesting story how Giulia came about through British Mums Dubai.
What's the Facebook group?
Yeah.
I thought that was just for selling things and whinging about things.
No.
It's not
very well informed.
Amazing oracle. But there's a huge amount, and I've been seeing it for the last 18 months, really, of women, first of all, helping their husbands find jobs, and then now looking to find their own. So, yeah, I spotted a post that Giulia had put up, and to be honest, it just grabbed me. Initially tried to help Giulia find something within our membership community. We have nearly 1,000 members, but then realised how perfect she was for the chamber itself. So it's all worked out really nicely.
Yeah, and were you confident that you'd be able to find work after taking a career break, or were you a little uncertain, Giulia?
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about the moment I posted on that group, because that's when I was already job searching for a couple of months, and I was reaching a stalling point where I was like, okay, I'm not getting any traction here. I need to reassess my strategy. I need to tap into some people that may have better leads and tips for me. And that's why I decided to post on that group, because I know it's
girl power got you through. British
and
girl power.
Loads of people replied, and Katy was one of the first. Actually, she replied within a few minutes. We got to talking, got to know each other, and things sort of organically developed in that sense. A lot happened, obviously, and a lot of luck. But yeah, I'm so grateful that I posted it that day.
So the trick is to be in one of the Facebook groups, to be a member of the...
Or have a boss like Katy. You know, it depends which way you look at it. Join the conversation this morning, 0586861003. Vivek Sanal is here with Lachlan Kitch, and we're discussing women returning to work after a career break due to family reasons. And joining us here in the studio, two members of the British Chamber of Commerce, the CEO, Katy Holmes, and Giulia Cibotti, the Communications and Growth Manager, who was handpicked by Katy for that reason, thanks to the Facebook group. I believe we have a caller, Vicky, as well.
We have Leanne with us. Hi, Leanne. Good morning.
Hi, Vivek and Kitch. It's a pleasure to join the show. I was listening in, very inspired. And hi, Katy and Giulia. I think just joining in on the conversation and leaning in, it's so inspiring to see companies kind of evolving and doing more so that we can champion women in business. In fact, Alpha Neuro has also just released a new maternity policy for our women employees, where we're offering a full 70-day paid leave. So, women can really have it all and do it all, and they can have the work-life balance that they crave, without having to kind of forsake their career growth.
So when you hear something like that, it is encouraging to hear that companies are slowly embracing and having internal policies to cope with women returning to work.
Yeah, and actually there's a whole other side of this as well, which actually the two scenarios work really well. So there's a huge amount of SMEs here in the market. So 60% of our database are owner-managed businesses. So these people are really at the coalface. They're working as hard as they can, and they're recruiting usually interns for roles that actually, if they were to go out to the market, could have senior counsel women that, I know ex-Magic Circle professionals, so lawyers from the city that are school assistants currently. So there's an amazing matching exercise.
So there's this wealth of talent.
Huge wealth of talent.
So to put it, you've come here like a lot of people, maybe a side hustle or something's become a big business.
Yeah.
You may not have the budget for a full-time employee, but you can leverage off someone with experience that only wants to work 1 or 2 days to fit in with their life balance. As a consultant or as a freelancer.
Yeah. So they're high value, but just time restricted. So I still do the school run, as often as I can, because that's my kind of non-negotiable. It's what I want to, despite the traffic, it is quite stressful, but it's something that I do want to do. And so from an empathy perspective, I would always expect my team members to want to do that as well. And I also know that they work really, really hard in the time that they are available. So probably 1 hour of a mum returning to work is probably the same as 3 hours to somebody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
And talking about mums specifically and working mums, some of the most organized professionals that I know are mums.
In the workplace, the mums had the memory of everything.
Can find things really quickly.
And I was like, how did you remember that? I'm a mum of 3.
Leanne, you have any more questions for Katy and
No,
Giulia?
I just want to say I absolutely agree with what lady said. In the sense that SMEs, we kind of work really hard to champion our employees. I think as SMEs, it's really important as a local homegrown company to sort of kind of lead this movement where, like you can do things that matter to you or that are non-negotiable, like the school run or like being home in time to, do your bedtime routine with your kids, for instance, or just have the flexibility to kind of attend their school events or, the breastfeeding policies. And I think giving moms that time or that extra time off really allows them to bond with their families. And I'm really, really glad that we could be part of this amazing movement.
Amazing. And are you a member of any Facebook group as well?
No, I am on some of the female fusion groups, and Alpha Nero is a member of the Women Empowerment Principles as part of the UN. So we are signatories, and in that sense, we really wanted to walk the talk. And by, kind of releasing this policy, we really wanted to make sure we also inspire our peers in the industry. And, if it's going to inspire other groups on Facebook or corporates on Facebook, why not?
Yeah, thank you very much for the call. Quite inspiring. Katy, CEO of the British Chamber of Commerce. What is the Chamber actually doing to facilitate with your members and your corporations for mums getting back into the workforce?
Yeah, so it's kind of happening quite organically, actually. So there's a number of companies that have got these fractional recruitment platforms that are joining. So that really is kind of matching short-term placements with people that are available for those short-term. So there's some really exciting things happening from a entrepreneur's perspective. But we also, as Giulia mentioned, we have 70 events throughout the year. And I would say about 30% of those events are looking at mental well-being in the workplace, employee engagement, and also making sure that, even our female membership has grown from 27 to 35% in 18 months. So we work really closely with the likes of Female Fusion, as Leanne mentioned, who are an amazing platform, all-female network. And British Mums Dubai, again, another plug for them. But yeah, we're all working together, collaborating.
But is that also not one of the biggest growth businesses? When we talk about mental health and charity work and also those things, I first came to this country in 2019 and those sort of platforms were non-existent. And what we've seen is this country not just catching up to perhaps other countries, but move them in record speed, the way the UAE can do things. And to the point where now I'm guessing businesses, it's becoming a real competitive advantage if you're having this available to your workforce.
Definitely, and we're talking about women, but there's a massive trickle effect for men. So the more, there's this amazing term called the drop curb mentality. So when you drop a curb in the US, and it was for wheelchair users, all of that work actually then enabled joggers, people with prams, people with trolleys. So suddenly, if you have a drop curb mentality, you're allowing other people to live flexibly, improve their mental health. So through COVID, has to be some good that came out of it. There is more of a gender balance at home, I'd like to think, but also in the workplace. So we can't forget that there are lots of men in the workplace that would also like to go to sports days, get home for bedtime. So the more that we can, it's not just gender specific.
And you're finding guys might get, why do the girls get these days off?
Yeah, so they should. And the more they drive it, the more it helps the women in the workplace.
Yeah, isn't it funny? But I think as men, we have a thing called a fragile male ego sometimes. So we need to get over that situation. 0586861003 if you want to send a WhatsApp. Do you think, are there any industries that are perhaps able to be more agile than others when it comes to having these flexibility for mums returning to work? You're working at events. How hard is this that you've got to do a Tuesday night event or a Saturday night event, Giulia, when it comes down to working with the Chamber?
Well, I think, again, it's all down to organisation. The more well organised the team is, the easier it is to know, who can go to one event or another. But it depends on the line of work. I think not all jobs are the same. For example, in my role, I do a lot of copywriting, which is easy to do regardless of where I am.
Okay.
And for that, I found over the years that I do my best writing when I'm in a quiet, non-distracting environment.
Well, that's easy as a mum, not?
Exactly. And sometimes homes and office spaces don't offer that vibe. But at the same time, I'm also a planner and I also work on events. So I can't be completely separated from the team because I need to ask them questions. I need to get direct feedback. And that happens better and more easily if I'm surrounded by the team. So it's about hitting that sweet spot.
But I think talking about the field that you were, referring to, probably a public relation field, that becomes quite easy for work from home, for hybrid and for taking those days off. But there are some industries where it is not all that easy, right?
Yeah, of course. When you have even the legal professional, there's lots of long nights and deadlines. But even that, you'd be amazed at what good practices happening in those entities as well.
Wow.
And I think COVID has been a great learning exercise for all industries because it just fast-tracked the adoption of more digital practice or online-based systems as well.
But also holistically as a country, I mean, how hard is it? Because if we go back 20 years ago, for many families, mums not having this opportunity to go back into the workforce may have meant a lot of expats went back home. Do you think that overall this is seeing a big thing to retain many of the skilled workers to be able to stay in the country because work can be more flexible?
There's that, and also the cost of living is going up. So it's actually forcing people to go back to work as well, which is why there's a huge increase. I mean, I receive CVs quite a lot through email and LinkedIn, men and women looking for additional work or to increase, what their salary is. So yeah, cost of living will drive this as well.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, and I think that it's a great issue, but it's also fantastic that we can talk about this conversation, and that employers can maybe have the confidence to speak up. Is that one of the hardest things? I mean, you've got a great relationship, I can see, Katy, with Katy, Giulia.
Only 2 weeks in.
Oh, okay. Still on probation.
Talk about it at the end of probation.
Well, what about that? What advice would you have for someone who maybe wants to have more flexible, but they're not sure about how to have that conversation with their manager? Because this is one of the hardest things. People feel they don't want to go in, and they find it hard. And we speak to so many people, they're frustrated on how do you ask for a pay rise or more flexible. I guess it's about cultivating that workplace environment where there's the freedom to have these conversations.
There's an amazing initiative with Pinsent Masons, one of our UK members, and it started in the UK, and they have at the beginning of every project, they have a bring yourself to work member charter, so it's what are your non-negotiables? So then they actually start learning more about each other. So it's bringing the whole self to work, and then it helps them plan. As Giulia said, planning is so important. So if they can do it in that organisation, they should be able to do that in large organisations as well.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on your work. Thank you for coming in. Also, thank you for sharing your story. It's great to be here. We've been speaking to Katy Holmes, the CEO of the British Chamber of Commerce, and Giulia Cibotti, the Communications and Growth Manager, about the issue of women returning to work after a career break. If you've got any more thoughts on this, or maybe you've got some challenges or some success stories you want to share with us, 0586861003.